Your thoughts shape your reality. This isn't just a catchy phrase. It's a truth that has been confirmed by psychology, neuroscience, and the lived experience of millions of people across generations. Every action you take, every emotion you feel, every decision you make is filtered through the lens of your thoughts. And those thoughts, whether conscious or subconscious, are constructing the world around you brick by invisible brick. Imagine waking up in the morning with the belief that today is going to be a bad day. You don't even know why, you just feel it. You're already anticipating problems. Your brain, trained to look for confirmation of your beliefs, starts scanning your environment for proof. The traffic seems worse than usual. That one coworker gives you a strange look. Your coffee tastes a little off. And before noon, you're shaking your head saying, I knew it. I just knew it was going to be one of those days. But here's the truth. It wasn't the day that shaped you. It was your thoughts that shaped your experience of the day. You created the atmosphere before anything even happened. Thoughts are powerful. They are the architects of your perception. Your brain is designed to respond to the way you think, and over time, the dominant patterns in your thinking literally rewire your neural pathways. If you constantly think negative, anxious, or self-defeating thoughts, your brain becomes wired for fear, doubt, and insecurity. But if you train your mind to think with faith, with possibility, with courage, your brain starts looking for opportunity, strength, and hope. This is not about ignoring reality or pretending problems don't exist. It's about choosing what lens you look through. Two people can go through the same struggle, but their outcomes can be radically different based on how they think. One sees failure and gives up. The other sees a lesson and gets stronger. One sees rejection and retreats. The other sees redirection and presses forward. The difference isn't in the challenge, it's in the mindset. How you think determines how you feel. How you feel determines how you act. And how you act determines the results you get in life. It's all connected. If your thoughts are filled with fear, your emotions will mirror that fear. Your actions will reflect avoidance or hesitation, and the result, missed opportunities, stagnation, regret. But if your thoughts are rooted in possibility, in purpose, in strength, your emotions begin to lift, your courage rises, your actions grow bolder. And over time, your life starts to reflect that change. You cannot change your life until you change your mind. That's why motivation without mindset is like planting seeds in concrete. Nothing grows. You can read the books, attend the conferences, watch the videos, but if your internal dialogue is still filled with defeat, then nothing will take root. Your mindset is the soil. It must be cultivated. It must be nurtured. If you keep telling yourself that you're not good enough, that you never succeed, that nothing ever works out for you, those thoughts will become the script your life follows. But if you begin to tell yourself that you are capable, that you are growing, that you are more than your past, then you start writing a new script, a better one. Some people live their whole lives trapped in prisons built by their own thoughts. The bars are made of "I can't," the locks are forged from "what if I fail," and the walls are plastered with memories of past mistakes. They don't realize that the key has always been in their pocket. That key is the ability to choose a new thought, a better belief, a more empowering story. The moment you take hold of that key and start unlocking those mental chains, your entire world begins to shift. Your circumstances do not define you. Your thoughts do. Two people can come from the same broken background, the same pain, the same struggle, yet one rises while the other stays stuck. Why? Because one chose to see the pain as a platform for growth, while the other allowed the pain to become a prison. And it all started with a thought, just one thought. Because one thought can lead to a new belief. One belief can lead to a new behavior. And one behavior can spark a transformation that rewrites your whole story. You don't need to wait for perfect conditions to start thinking differently. In fact, waiting is just another way your mind tricks you into staying the same. The moment you shift your thoughts is the moment your life begins to move in a new direction. You don't have to feel confident to think like a confident person. You don't have to be successful yet to think like someone who's destined for success. You simply start by making a decision. I will not let my old thinking control my new future. It takes intention. It takes discipline. Your mind has been shaped by years, sometimes decades of repetition. Maybe you were told you'd never amount to anything. Maybe you failed and internalized that failure as your identity. Maybe life knocked you down so hard that you stopped even trying to get back up. But you're not stuck. You're just rehearsing the same mental patterns. And those patterns can be broken. They must be broken. Start paying attention to your inner dialogue. Catch the thoughts that pull you down. Replace them not with empty positivity, but with powerful truth. If you think, I'm not smart enough, replace it with, I am learning and growing every day. If you think, I always mess things up, replace it with, I've made mistakes, but I am not my mistakes. If you think, I can't do this, replace it with, I am capable and I will figure it out. The transformation doesn't come overnight. Rewiring your thinking is a process, just like going to the gym and training your muscles. You have to train your mind. Every time you catch a toxic thought and replace it with a life-giving one, you are strengthening your mental resilience. You are creating a new default setting for your brain, a new foundation for your future. Science calls it neuroplasticity, the ability of your brain to rewire itself based on new patterns. Faith calls it renewal, the process of being transformed by the renewing of your mind. Whatever you call it, the power is real and it's within you. The thoughts you allow to dominate your mind today are shaping the world you'll walk in tomorrow. The most dangerous limits are not the ones placed on you by others. They are the ones you place on yourself. If you believe you're too old, too young, too late, too broken, too average, then you've already lost the battle before it begins. But when you start telling yourself a new story, a true story, a story where you are resilient, resourceful, and ready, you begin to open doors you never even knew existed. Your mind is not your enemy. It is your greatest ally if you train it to be. Left unchecked, it will run wild with fear, doubt, and distraction. But when you take charge, when you get intentional about what you feed it, what you focus on, what you believe, your thoughts begin to serve you. They begin to elevate you. They begin to align with the life you were always meant to live. The reality you're living in right now is a reflection of the thoughts you've been thinking up until now. But if you don't like the current reflection, the good news is you can change the projection. You can rewrite the internal script. You can reframe the past, refocus the present, and redirect the future. All by starting with your thoughts. Because nothing changes until your mind changes. And once your mind changes, everything else begins to follow. Old mindsets can't unlock new doors. It's a truth many people hear, but few truly absorb. We live in a world that's constantly changing, technologically, socially, economically, yet we often approach it with outdated thinking. We try to use yesterday's logic to solve today's problems. We bring old fears into new opportunities. We rely on habits that once protected us, but now imprison us. And then we wonder why we feel stuck, why we keep hitting walls, why nothing seems to shift. It's not always the world that needs to change. It's how we're thinking about it. A mindset is more than a set of thoughts. It's a framework. It's the lens through which we interpret every experience. It shapes our decisions, our expectations, and even our self-worth. When that framework becomes rigid, when it's no longer flexible or open, we become blind to growth. We start defaulting to what's familiar, even when it no longer serves us. We stay in comfort zones that become cages. We cling to stories about ourselves that were written in pain or fear, not realizing those stories are just interpretations, not facts. When you carry an old mindset into a new season of life, you sabotage your own progress. You might be given a fresh start, a new job, a relationship, a project, but if you still think like the person who was hurt, overlooked, or underestimated, you'll approach that opportunity with suspicion, self-doubt, or hesitation. You'll second guess your decisions. You'll play small. You'll talk yourself out of doors that were meant for you. And not because they're locked, but because your mind has convinced you they are. Growth demands a shift in thinking. You cannot expand your life while shrinking your thoughts. You cannot step into abundance while holding on to a scarcity mindset. You cannot lead, create, or innovate while being driven by fear, comparison, or old wounds. The person you were may have survived by playing it safe, by avoiding risk, by staying silent, but the person you are becoming, your next level, requires you to think differently, to see yourself differently, to expect more, not just from life, but from your own potential. One of the biggest obstacles to transformation is the belief that your old way of thinking is still useful. Just because it worked once doesn't mean it will work again. Strategies that got you through survival mode might be completely incompatible with thriving. A mindset built on protection might block you from connection. A mindset focused on control might prevent you from receiving help, love, or collaboration. You can't open new doors with old keys. And the keys in this context are your beliefs, your habits, your assumptions, some of which you've never even questioned. Sometimes the mindsets we carry aren't even ours to begin with. They were handed down from parents, teachers, society. You were told what's possible and what's not, what's realistic, what people like you should or shouldn't do. Those messages got buried deep and became your operating system. And unless you stop to evaluate that programming, you'll keep running on outdated software, even when life is offering you a major upgrade. The danger of these inherited mindsets is that they feel like truth, but feelings are not facts, and beliefs are not always based on reality. They're often based on repetition. The most successful transformations start with unlearning. Before you can learn something new, you have to challenge what you already believe. You have to make room. You have to be willing to admit, maybe I've been wrong. Maybe what I've always believed isn't serving me anymore. That kind of humility takes courage. It requires a strong person to question their own thoughts, to step outside of their mental comfort zone, and to risk being wrong in order to grow. But nothing changes until you confront the way you've been thinking. We often say we want change, but deep down we fear what that change might require of us. New doors represent new challenges, new expectations, new levels of responsibility. And old mindsets thrive on predictability. They don't want you to step into the unknown. They want you to stay safe, stay small, stay predictable. That's why people stay in unfulfilling jobs, relationships, or environments. Not because they love it, but because they fear what comes next. Because stepping through a new door means leaving behind the familiar hallway. It means risk. And risk terrifies the old mindset. But nothing worthwhile comes without discomfort. The tension you feel when trying to shift your thinking is part of the process. It's the stretching of your mental boundaries. When you start to challenge your limiting beliefs, you'll feel resistance. Your old mindset will try to pull you back with thoughts like, who do you think you are? Or, that's not for people like you. Recognize that voice, call it out. That's not your truth, it's your programming, and you have the power to change it. A closed mindset says, this is just the way I am. But a growth mindset says, I can become more than I've ever been. A fixed mindset says, I already know enough. But a learning mindset says, there's always something new to discover. A scarcity mindset says, there's not enough to go around. But an abundant mindset says, there's more than enough, and I am worthy of receiving it. These aren't just philosophies. They're practical tools for unlocking doors you once thought were sealed shut. Every time you adopt a new mindset, you gain access to a new reality. The door to healing doesn't open if you keep replaying the pain. The door to success doesn't open if you're still thinking like someone who always loses. The door to purpose doesn't open if you believe your past disqualified you. These doors don't require a miracle. They require a shift in perspective, a shift in language, a shift in self-talk, the willingness to say, just because I've always thought this way doesn't mean I have to continue thinking this way. That's the beauty of being human. We're not locked into our old selves. The brain has plasticity, the heart has resilience, and the spirit has the ability to be renewed. But we must participate in that process. We must choose the new thought, even when the old one feels more natural. We must reframe the narrative, even when it's easier to replay the old script. We must align our minds with where we want to go, not where we've been. What's holding most people back is not a lack of opportunity, intelligence, or skill. It's a lack of mental alignment. They want the promotion, but still think like an employee. They want the relationship, but still carry the wounds of abandonment. They want freedom, but still like someone who's bound. The new door is there, but they're holding the wrong key. And that key is the mindset they refuse to release. Life will often test you to see if you've really changed your mind. It will give you situations that look familiar to see if you'll react the same way. It will ask you, are you still the same person thinking the same thoughts, expecting the same outcomes? And if you are, then the door remains closed. Not because it's locked, but because you haven't yet become the version of yourself who's ready to walk through it. The moment you recognize that your old mindset is no longer serving your future, you are at a turning point, a crossroads. You can cling to what's comfortable, or you can reach for what's possible. You can keep using the same excuses, or you can start asking better questions. You can defend your limitations, or you can dismantle them. The choice is yours. Change begins the moment you challenge your beliefs. That moment when you dare to question the thoughts that have shaped your decisions, your actions, and your identity is the spark of transformation. Beliefs are powerful. They are the invisible architects of your life. They shape your perception of what's possible, what you deserve, and who you think you are. And most people live their entire lives obeying beliefs they never consciously chose. We all inherit beliefs. From childhood, we absorb ideas from our parents, teachers, culture, religion, and environment. Some of these beliefs empower us. They encourage us to strive, to love, to grow. But many others limit us. They tell us we're not enough, that success is for other people, that love is dangerous, that failure is fatal. These beliefs are often installed during vulnerable moments, when we were scared, hurt, rejected, or misunderstood. And once planted, they become part of the background noise of our thinking, quietly directing our lives without ever being examined. Most of the time, we don't even realize our beliefs are guiding us. We just think that's how life works, or that's just how I am. But that's the trap. We confuse belief with fact. We treat mental assumptions like universal laws. And until those beliefs are challenged, they remain active in the background, shaping our decisions, reinforcing our fears, and limiting our options. Change can only begin when we stop to ask, is this actually true? That question is simple, but it's one of the most powerful tools for transformation. When you start challenging your beliefs, you begin to reclaim your power. You take back control from the voices that told you what you could or couldn't do. You step into a space of awareness where you're no longer just reacting to life. You're actively choosing how you see it. This shift in thinking is where real change starts. Not with action, not with motivation, but with awareness, with the courage to question what you've been taught to accept. Let's say you've always believed you're not creative. Maybe someone told you that in school. Maybe you compared yourself to others and assumed you didn't have what it takes. That belief sits in your mind untouched for years. You never try to write, draw, build, or create because in your mind, what's the point? Then one day you ask yourself, who said I'm not creative? Where did that belief come from? That moment is the beginning of change, not because your skill suddenly increases, but because you finally challenged the thought that was holding you back. Now, a new possibility opens, and possibility is the birthplace of growth. This principle applies to every area of life. In relationships, you may believe you're unworthy of love because of past rejection. In your career, you may believe you'll never be successful because you failed before. In your personal development, you may believe you can't change because this is just how I've always been. These beliefs become self-fulfilling prophecies. You act in ways that confirm them. You seek evidence to support them. And over time, they feel more and more like unshakable truth. But all it takes is one brave moment of inquiry to interrupt the cycle. When you challenge a belief, you create a crack in the mental armor that's been keeping you stuck. That crack lets in light. It lets in possibility. And that's all you need to begin moving forward. But make no mistake, challenging your beliefs isn't always comfortable. These beliefs often become part of your identity. They give you a sense of predictability, even if they're painful. Letting go of a limiting belief means stepping into uncertainty. It means saying, maybe I don't know who I am without this story. That's scary, but it's also liberating. People resist change not because they can't grow, but because they're afraid of what they'll have to give up. They're afraid to release the belief that made them feel safe or justified. But growth and comfort rarely coexist. The truth will often disrupt your comfort, but it will also set you free to explore new paths, free to rewrite your narrative, free to create a life that's aligned with your true self, not your programmed self. Every breakthrough begins with a mental shift. You can attend all the seminars, read all the books, watch all the motivational videos, but if you never challenge the core beliefs driving your behavior, nothing truly changes. It might look like change on the outside, but inside the same doubts, fears, and limitations will resurface again and again. That's why transformation that lasts must begin in the mind. It must begin with a moment of truth where you look yourself in the mirror and say, maybe I've been wrong about myself. This doesn't mean beating yourself up. It means getting honest. It means becoming aware of the internal stories you've been telling. Are they empowering or limiting? Do they come from love or from fear? Have they led you toward growth or kept you small? This kind of self-inquiry isn't easy. It can be emotional. You might uncover beliefs you didn't even know you had. Beliefs about your worth, your potential, your future. But that's go on. But that's the work. That's the real beginning of change. One of the most damaging beliefs people carry is the idea that they're not capable of change. They say, this is just who I am, or it's too late for me. But identity is not fixed. Personality is not a prison. The human brain is designed to grow, to learn, to evolve. You are not a finished product. You are a work in progress, and the progress begins. You stop letting old beliefs write the next chapter of your life. You have ability to examine every belief you hold and ask, is this helping me or hurting me? That single question can change your life. You'll start to see how much of what you've accepted as truth is actually just a mental habit, a reaction, a pattern. You'll begin to realize that your inner world has been shaped by repetition, not reality. And what was programmed can reprogram. What was learned can be unlearned. This process is not instant, it's ongoing. Beliefs don't change overnight. They're sticky. They come with emotional attachments, old memories, and familiar behaviors. But with awareness, intention, and repetition, they begin to lose their power. You start replacing them with better beliefs. Beliefs rooted in truth, not trauma. Beliefs based on possibility, not past pain. Beliefs that push you forward instead of pulling you back. The moment you challenge a belief is the moment you begin to create space. Space for a new thought, a new behavior, a new reality. That's where change begins. Not the destination, but at the decision to question what you've always accepted. Every major transformation, every life-altering shift, every breakthrough story you've ever heard began with someone saying, maybe I don't have to think this way anymore. That moment of doubt, the right kind of doubt, is where the future starts to open up. It's the crack in the wall, the spark in the darkness, the whisper that says, there's more for you than this.